Yeah, we were talking about the many talented Jeremy Joneses out there. There's another one, as I was trying to figure out your bio, that was the drummer on a Macklemore album.
Yeah.
And I even said to these guys, I was like, no way. He's a snowboarder. He does this. He's also on a Macklemore album. And then I figured out it's because the Google Bard was just sending me all the wrong info.
There's a lot of pro Jeremy Jones things.
Yeah.
Pool player.
Really?
Yeah, quite a few musicians. And then there's this younger skateboarder kid that just came out.
Yeah, it makes
I
it
follow
even more
skateboarding pretty
confusing.
closely, and I
Yeah.
was like, wait, who is this? And it was kind of a familiar graphic over 30 years. You see a lot of name titles, and so it was
I guess.
kind of felt like it could have been mine, and I was so confused
Right.
because I'm like, I follow skating. Who's
Yeah.
this Jeremy Jones?
I'm not
And
up and coming.
Yeah, what's going on
I've been
here?
skating forever.
This kid looks young.
So you're the real Jeremy Jones.
I'm the real Jeremy
As you've been
Jones.
dubbed.
I've been dubbed that,
I
yes.
did learn that.
Yeah. I
Because
took
of the
ownership of
confusion.
it for a minute, but
Yeah.
it kind of backfired. The
Well,
timing wasn't right.
And people thrust that upon you. You didn't.
Correct. Yeah.
At least that's what I read.
Yeah,
But
no,
maybe,
it was-
maybe you were the tabloid feeder,
It all
though.
started in an interview in Transworld Snowboarding
Yep.
2003, and they titled it The Real Jeremy Jones. And their intention there was, it was rare to get a pretty candid interview from somebody where they weren't, I wasn't playing the politic game, and like I just said what I saw.
Right.
And that resonated good and bad with people. And so that's that.
I mean,
both ways.
I feel like in the long run, though, it pays off because like people know what to expect. Like when you're genuine, you're yourself. Like people aren't going to try and like, show you around or like pretend that you're something you're not, which makes it easier in the long run.
Well, it's consistent. It's way easier to keep up with.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Just like
your own self.
Yeah, being genuine. All right, so I'm going to do a little intro.
Okay.
Then we'll do a little bit of your life story, growing up, all that good stuff. And then I'll just lead us from there. But here we are, another episode of Now for Later. I'm your host, Eric Mika. Today we're with Jeremy Jones, big-time snowboarder, not to be confused with the many other Jeremy Joneses that are apparently out in the world. Also in the world of snowboarding and skateboarding, which is your world. This is the real Jeremy Jones. We're grateful to have you, excited to have you. I know you're, maybe I define you a little bit too narrowly right there as a snowboarder. You're into a lot of other things, which we're really excited to get into. So we're grateful. We're happy to have you.
Cool. Thanks. Glad to be here. Yeah.
Jeremy was the first suggestion that our mutual friend Josh Nielsen. Josh keeps coming up on this podcast.
He's a mover, dude.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, homie's he's up in everything.
He's everywhere.
It's crazy.
And I think 2 of the last 3 episodes we've done have been not like he facilitated with you and I, because I didn't know you, but they're people that are now part of both our networks. And so I brought up Josh and they both just start laughing because, he's just an awesome guy.
It's good, man. It's good to, there's good ones and you just got to keep them around. It's, I don't know. And they usually introduce you to good ones too. So,
No, Josh is incredible. What he does at the Grid is amazing. Even more amazing is just his overall confidence in life. He will look you straight in the face and tell you that he'll beat you at whatever it is you do best. He does this to me weekly with basketball.
How he introduced you to me was...
That's correct. That's true.
Yeah, him beating you in basketball.
Yeah, him starting over me in high school or something.
The times that he did. Starting, that was one of the components.
Because I was 14 years old
and
never touched a basketball.
To his credit, he followed it up with, but it was the one time.
Yeah, that's
fair.
So, yeah. Well, and he's a humble guy. Yesterday, we worked out. By worked out, I mean he rebounded for me, and then he got a couple shots up, and then I got to shoot again. But then he took me out to the golf green.
He's rehabbing, so
he is.
That's all he gets.
He took me out to the golf green because I think he wanted his time to shine.
Show you up.
And I actually got him in that, too, and he was pretty bummed.
Uh-oh.
But
rough day.
He took it well, though. He's a champ. He's recovering, like you said.
Yeah.
He's recovering.
He's good. I'm glad to know him for sure.
No, great dude. No, we're happy to have you. He was when I started telling him the genesis of this podcast and kind of the audience we're targeting and the people we want to bring on, more importantly, he was like, first thing he said was like, Jeremy, you got to bring Jeremy on the show. Like he'll be the best. So we're excited to have you. As I sort of alluded to, there was, and as you alluded to too, because you wanted it this way, it was hard to dig up a ton about you. You did send me a couple articles and links that, again, I had trouble getting any info out of using a couple of these AI platforms that should teach me, right? But you grew up in Farmington, Utah.
I did.
You're one of 9 kids.
Correct.
Tell us about growing up in Farmington, Utah. And just your life from a young age. I want to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, I grew up with a huge family.
Yeah.
Suburbs of Salt Lake City, essentially, up Farmington.
Yeah.
We grew up around Lagoon was the amusement park.
Lagoon's
Cherry Hill was where we kind of run across
places.
the highway at the time.
Yep.
Now I don't think you could run across it, but lived up in Somerset Farms. Used to have farms. I'd sit in cherry trees and eat cherries all day across the street and cause trouble and just try to get through school. And then I found skateboarding while I was there.
When you were 13, right?
Yeah, that was, ish, seventh grade. Yeah. So that's when life really started to get clear for me. Prior to that, it was kind of just surviving and not particularly happy with like the lanes that I saw that people took in life. They were pretty there wasn't many options, it seemed like.
What do you mean? Like who was giving you these lanes?
I mean, just adults and just my perception more than anything.
For sure.
Like you're viewing mom like this, dad like this, neighbor friends like this. What do they do? They go to work, they come home, and that net, like when skateboarding introduced itself to me, it was so different to that.
Yeah.
And this is 35 years ago, so 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Skateboarding was still, fairly new to some extent, and snowboarding was right then, being born. So it was different. Farmington was a small town.
Right.
I actually just got invited back there to speak to the cop force of all people, which was a funny irony because that's what I dealt with. I left Farmington and got out of Farmington, as a beat up skateboarder from law enforcement and authority, and because they just didn't want you around. They didn't know what it was. It was just unfamiliar. And
has that gotten any better?
Oh yeah.
Still.
Yeah,
because I still feel like there is like probably a perception and a misconception.
There is for sure, but every car that drove past me, if I had every single car was skate or die, yelled out the window, whether it was an adult, a kid, like everyone knew how to just holler at a skater and call him a name, and that was like, that doesn't happen anymore, ever, that I know of. I mean, it's rare. We'd go on State Street, skate, and, the Cowboys would come cruise state, the Rockers would cruise state, the homies would cruise state, and they were always down with us.
Yeah.
Rockers were kind of always down with us. The Cowboys always wanted to fight. And the Jocks always wanted to fight.
Yeah.
And that was growing up.
Yeah.
That was kind of what, I don't know, I guess put on my layer. I think I thickened up just the way society comes at me through those years, just because it felt like a lot of resistance, whether it was real resistance or whether it was just the way I was seeing things. Because that's huge.
How do you tell the difference though? Or how did you learn to tell the difference?
Hindsight.
Yeah.
That's the only way. Like, I don't know. Unless you got to figure it out. Like most things, you've got to, seems like if you really want to know yes or no, you need to experience it.
Yeah.
and then you can be certain. There's a number of things because of other characteristics maybe you have. You just, I'm not going to experience this because I know what will happen if I do because of this. And so you can avoid a lot of things without experience. I'm not saying that, but generally.
But sometimes you just have to do it.
Yeah, nothing
to figure out how it goes.
And sometimes, I know there's lots of like one-liners that go with this, but I won't butcher any of them. But literally, the best stuff is, I mean, when you're left with nothing.
Right.
Like that's always when I've truly like came up, a notch, and that's only like me and what I want that in terms of like what that notch is, right? So.
Well, I mean, you're wearing a shirt that says "What doesn't kill you doesn't kill you."
Yeah, that was learned from the Avalanche, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But like, was this like something you were born with? Was it something you developed being in a big family? Like, I only bring this up because before you got here, we were kind of tweaking on a couple parts of the intro, like the first episode we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Kaz was doing the best to dig the same question that I'm now asking you and trying to dig, right? Like, I'm one of 7, and so, like, parts of me thinks that the person I ended up and the route that I took, like, ties back to that, right? Like, trying to stand out, be a little bit different. Skateboarding and eventually snowboarding is super different. Like, does any of that tie into, like, your family, like, being in a big family, like, you wanted to be different? Or, like, I don't know, I kind of want to just go back to, like, you being in a massive family. Like, what was that like?
It didn't seem that massive, actually.
Yeah, it's what you knew.
Yeah, it's what I knew. There was a lot of people around. That felt busy and like chaotic. The house was always a junk show. It was, and I understand why now. Like that's impossible to keep up with.
Right.
And then, but half of them are older. I was in the bottom half age group. And so the younger half was kind of my homies. So that was like, there was only 4 or 5 of us at that phase. And so it felt small. The others were kind of in high school already. Moving on. And so, but with the 9, I think where the value of family really started to, I guess, show its face to me. I mean, yeah, the kids stuff was just growing up. It was what I knew. It was total chaos, and you just pick up what you can, and you're kind of just swimming. And down towards the bottom, the parents, they're tired. They're spent, and it's not a lack of anything else other than just, what? There's 6 others that survived this stuff.
Right.
And they still probably felt like they raised those 6 totally wrong.
Right.
But those 6 are getting by just fine. And so they're able to kind of disconnect a little bit. And so I think I had a freedom that the olders maybe didn't. Just in terms of like space and to kind of explore. And my whole family's kind of we're going to do it our way.
Yeah.
Every one of them. So, and they all do it different. And that's the coolest part now is I see this variety that's built out of my family, and that network is huge. Everyone stays out of everyone's business until someone needs help. And then it's just like
drop of a hat, everyone's there.
Yeah. It's like bees around the queen, like they just come in and then they stay there till it's like supported, and then they peace out. And like, that I guess is where I started to recognize the value of them, and like why I love family and why family is important. Like, because those experiences they taught me, I saw the olders go through drugs and, detoxes and experimenting with trouble, the law,
right.
and, I don't know, cocaine-ridden secretaries because they're so spun out. And it was, early 90s, late 80s. And you like see these things and learn these experiences. And,
Right. Which you
and that
mentioned
shaped
earlier.
me. I think that it gave me a lot of firm things, like the way people treat people, the way men treat women, the way drugs affect people.
The way we treat our bodies.
Yeah. Things to recognize in yourself before you approach experiencing something,
Right.
To the earlier point. So I don't know. I guess in short, like it was sick, like being everything.
Gave you a lot of introspection.
Yeah. I think,
cool experiences.
Yeah. And they were always cool. We beat each other up and got in trouble. And again, though, it's like cool experiences. Adopted brother. I had a adopted Korean brother. He came off the airplane on all fours, 9 years old, and knuckles in his hand and his knees. Like he didn't even know how to walk, and that's wild, And
that is wild.
My mom hiding my younger brother at the adoption center with like a bigger dress because she was pregnant with my younger brother.
Wow.
And has all these kids, and then she's like, "Come on, we just want
one
more."
Yeah.
So she's like, "Cool." I think that's cool. I think it's like for good navigating the system. I mean, I don't know, for right or wrong that she did that, but I know that my brother like is in a dope spot.
Right.
He's lived a good life. He's healthy and now married, just in his older years, and so happy and has a short leg, and I don't even know what you call that anymore. Some crazy hip thing. And so again, I see how it's like, saw his mental trauma and like learned from like his anxiety freakouts and breakdowns, and without even knowing what it was, like recognized it when I saw it later. And so I don't know.
What is that?
This
is kind of a rabbit hole, but I'm really enjoying like hearing it. How do you learn from other people's experiences? Like you make it sound like so natural and easy. Like you're sitting back, seeing these things happening, internalizing, processing, learning from, therefore hypothetically improving from other people's like mistakes and achievements, like whatever it is, experiences, without doing it yourself. How do you do that?
Geez, I don't know. I think back to an earlier question, I have something that's natural and that just has a tendency to kind of do that.
Yeah.
I think my moment of clarity with it, actually, I know it was in San Diego. I was just starting to get my career going. Mm-hmm. So I was at the time 18. I just wrote this letter to my dad that was like my business plan.
Yeah.
That kind of frames up this whole thing. And I stayed with my brother. He was in San Diego trying to change up his life a little bit. He had just gone through a relapse. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Yeah. He was in like a treatment center for coke, and then he relapsed. And what is it when you almost die? What's the word? OD'd. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So he just OD'd, took the same amount. The body wasn't used to it at that point. So then he had to clean up again and went to San Diego. I was staying with him there, and we were just talking.
Yeah.
And in this tiny apartment, and I said, I got to go to the bathroom. I stood up, and he's just like, I feel like I failed you as a brother. Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
I've actually never even been asked this. So this is the first time I'm even really connecting it. So I apologize for the rawness.
Take your time.
And I just went in the bathroom and sat down, and I didn't say anything, and I thought about it, and I was like, well, because he kind of went on with this example, like, I've been
Yeah.
such a bad example. I've only shown you this. And
Mhm.
he got into that lifestyle through music. He's a musician.
Yeah.
Beautiful voice. His band was at the time, winning all the local awards and festivals and things like that. And there was a lot of potential there. And so,
But that lifestyle is crazy.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Even small town, I think small town, it's even crazier sometimes because you just have easier connects to
Yeah.
make that stuff happen and,
Right.
and quietly,
Right.
right? So he goes down that road. It all kind of folds in on him. His marriage folds in on him. And he did it all to himself. It was all really just chasing this habit. And it was all pretty raw when he said it to me. I sit down and then I just holler over the door and I was like, you know what it is, Aaron, is the example that you've been to me is shown me those things not to do.
Yeah.
And now I get to move forward knowing already, like clear as day, what an outcome of this is.
Right.
And what I want is to snowboard, and I'm just getting my foot in. And so this isn't going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And you're the reason why. So that was like, I think we never spoke of it again.
Yeah.
He'll probably never listen to this. And I think I just carried that with me always. And I was like, this is I'm going to represent all those things that I saw him do
Right.
that taught me lessons to be either different or think this one through before you do this move.
And ultimately get to where you want to get.
Yeah.
Like you had that vision.
And stay away from the trouble, like
Yeah.
the little hiccups that kind of derail you, especially when you have like a real creative goal. And I
Yeah.
don't say that to demean any traditional paths
For sure.
because effort's effort, you
Yeah.
know, but I believe that creative space when you're an entrepreneur, you know, it's crazy.
You have to
like,
be locked in.
You have to be locked in, and it's not smooth almost ever.
Yeah.
Like it's wild and it's unpredictable, and it feels like war a lot of the time, and you just have to be, I don't know, but it's to me easier.
Yeah.
Or I prefer it. I don't know. Maybe it's just a preference.
Yeah, you're drawn to it like that.
Yeah.
Some people aren't. I think that's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It sounds like then from a pretty young age you had like something clicked. Right?
Something
so
clicked.
you got in
Mm-hmm.
to skateboarding, and I've heard the story about how that turned into snowboarding. You kind of jimmy rigged this snowboard using your skateboard. And you
Right.
go down the hill at your buddy's house in Farmington.
Yeah. Nice. Good job.
I did what I could.
You did. You worked fast. That's
Google was
impressive.
working
Yeah.
against me, but we got it done.
There's a lot more. I got to go in there. There's a lot more on there than I'm aware. I need to go start pulling it down.
We'll get a second episode, baby. You had a vision, right? From a young age. When did that vision come a little bit clearer? Like, when did it click? I know it started skateboarding. Let's transition to snowboarding a little bit. When did it click that you're like, I love this. I'm also really good at this. And I think I want to go all in. I want to do this.
That would be Dad's letter, like the challenge.
Yeah.
He
Actually, sorry to cut you off. I want to hear about this letter because, like, was it from him? Like, was he like,
No,
I got to
no.
hear what this plan is because it's untraditional, it's unique? Or was this like,
So it was a business plan
yeah,
that I wrote on 8x11.
this is at what age?
18. This
Okay.
is all kind of the start of like things happening.
So you weren't going to go to school. You were going to pursue this.
Yeah, I was for sure not going to school, and he knew that, and he moved with it for a minute, and then he just called it out, and he said, if you're going to do this, just give me a business plan.
Yeah.
I had no clue what this
That meant.
looks like
Yeah.
or what it meant. I still don't really.
Who does?
I mean, kind of.
I definitely
Build a
don't.
deck,
Right.
I know that's a
Oh,
thing.
man. Decks.
And so I was like, all right, I'll write you a business plan.
Yeah.
And I just wrote a one sheet. It's like a page and a quarter. And I just sort of, snowboarding, how I got into it, you just framed up to kind of take in as much of it as I could, meant I was just consuming videos. So I was in the basement watching snowboard videos, and in those videos you have segments. So you have like, to compare it to basketball or something, it'd be like a 10-minute highlight reel, and you'd have, Larry Bird for a minute and a half,
Like a compilation
doing
of,
all of this
yeah.
like dopest stuff. Right.
Thank you for putting into terms that I would understand.
Right. And into the timeline that maybe I even know the names better from. Right.
Right.
So it's everyone's best stuff, and that was kind of our career as you go into, later on, that's what it was. But I was watching them. They're putting together like a minute and a half. This is all their own footage, just like sequenced up. And then it goes into another guy's part, another girl's part. And then there's this production company that kind of, I didn't call it that, but that's what it is, that creates this thing.
Yeah.
How all that happened, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I just sort of framed it up on that. I was like, I'm going to be in these videos, like the ones that I watch.
I'm not going to produce them. I'm going to be in them.
I'm going to be in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was talent focused. Like I was going to be, I didn't want to be a star. I just wanted to snowboard.
Yeah.
And if there's this lane to make money and do it, then,
and
be seen the least, then that's my lane, essentially.
Interesting approach. Yeah.
So I found it in snowboard videos because they're pretty low key. You don't have to compete very much. And anyway, that gets derailed a little bit. So
no pun intended.
No pun intended. Nice one. So Dad challenges that. I frame up this thing. I'm going to be in these videos.
Yeah.
People are going to pay me to be in the videos.
Right.
A snowboard company or clothing or whatever.
Yeah. Sponsorships.
Yeah. And just tried to be as basic as I
could.
could.
You're going to be a pro snowboarder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pro snowboarder doing contract work. Yeah, I could have wrote it in like one sentence now.
Right. But we got to make it legit.
Right.
We got to make a business plan.
So I sort of tell him how it's going to go. I'm going to start building this network of photographers and filmers.
Yeah.
I'm going to be good enough that they're going to ask me if they can film me. And at that time, it kind of worked that way. So if you were good enough, you would get asked. And then also there's the buy-in of a sponsor. If a sponsor has a contract, they can push and lean, and you can buy your way into that spot. And so now it mostly happens that way. But you had to be good either way.
Yeah.
And so if now you can't really get in that way, you sort of have to, I don't know, you have to build up your resume.
You have to, and a brand. It's different now more than ever.
Yeah, every brand is kind of trying to support every brand.
Yeah,
kind of. And so anyway, I saw this production. It was a film company. It was these writers. They travel together, and I just wrote that. And he was down. He was like, all right, that is good enough. I'll give you $200 a month for 6 months on this gas card.
Yeah.
So you can have gas to go up and down the mountain and to and from whatever
the filming,
job you're doing or whatever, to kind of hustle extra cash and that. And so
what was your reaction to that? Like, was that?
I was so stoked. I was like, a credit card like that.
$200?
Yeah, I was tripping for sure.
Did you spend it on gas?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's actually what we did.
You put it to, you hit the ground running and you used it.
And we were trying to do that before anyway. I mean, our hustle there was at lunches at Farmington Junior. I'd stand there at the candy machine.
Yeah.
And the cost was 45 cents or like 85 cents. It was always weird.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just
never 50 cents or $1.
No. And so you always would get like 35 cents change or 45 cents. Like it was kind of a lot, adds up quick. And I would just stand there and be like, do you need your change? Do you want your change?
Wow.
Can you have your change?
Yeah.
And I'd walk lunch at the end of the week for enough for 2 lift tickets.
Yeah.
And I did that for probably 7th and 8th grade, 8th and 9th grade. Sorry,
Yeah.
Farmington Junior.
I mean, talk about hustling from a young age.
And yeah, and like I had a favorite candy machine. Like mine was in the corner.
You had your
buddy
turf.
started like getting the one next to me,
Yeah.
and thinking he was gonna work the soda machine too. And I was just like, dude, you're spreading too thin,
Right.
And he wouldn't make it because he'd be bouncing around. I'm like, you got a sold position.
You had it all mapped out.
Because if you leave the line when it's hot, it is. Like everyone jams in there, tries to buy their candy bar, and then they're trying to break out. So it's really only popping for like 5-7 minutes.
Did you start like building a relationship with the regulars at the candy machine? Like, did they know?
Yeah.
They'd show up and be like, "Oh, you're still here."
Yeah, like a lot of people use that time to kind of chisel you and just call you a name or something. They're just like, dude, like scumbag, and
right.
They kind of. But then, had a lot of.
But then you were getting change.
Yeah, they would still give you the change.
And you get 2 free lift tickets. So
they didn't want it. It was just extra. They couldn't
Right.
go buy anything
Right.
for 15 cents,
Right.
And so, that was like, for sure, still maybe my favorite hustle.
That's
It
amazing.
was so good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into the bigger hustles. Obviously, are we when you start talking about you got some yeses from these people from like a producer? Are we talking about the creation of the Forum 8, or is that later?
That's coming quick, but a little later.
Okay, so connect those dots, because I think everything that I was actually able to find on you talked about the Forum 8, and that's the direction you pointed me in as well.
So Forum 8 was when it was, a lot of things, but it was everything in snowboarding kind of happened.
Yeah, and you had gotten some traction
Yes.
with your business plan. Like it was
Correct.
actually going the way you expected.
So I'm maybe, when were we at, 96 when Forum was formulated, 95, 96, 97's when I got on. And so 94 to 97 was this phase of semi-hustle, dad's gas card, small-time sponsorship, little bit of money, then it goes dry for a year and a half, and mowing lawns and doing whatever, right? Landscaping was my favorite because it lended itself best to dollar per hour given of my time, and then like the scale for when I could go skate in the summer, because you'd do those hustles, get off, I could skate at like 2 to 6, and things were quiet. People were still in business. In the summer, schools were empty, so you had a lot more freedom to kind of go move around and skate. Hot at those times, but it was like good timing. And then
on the surface, it looks like you would just hustle and do whatever it took, but it seems like you did have a lot of like you put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, I mean, I
like just you saying like the timing worked out so that you could like skate, unbothered. Like you thought about like, okay, how can I hustle and make this work? But like, how can I also help? How can the hustle help me propel like what I'm really trying to do?
Yeah, and that, I think the back part of that, what you just said, is where all the development happens, right? Like the experiences that you now go have.
Yeah.
That those expand in that phase, and then but leading up to that, it is more of a hustle than it is less of, you have this like plan way out here, but it's easy to get distracted because unless you can break things down, again, hindsight, unless you can break things down to literally like, what's our next step here?
Right.
Like you get so spun out too easy, right? And I was the king of that as a kid, like crazy distracted, because my goals were here and I knew I could get to them.
Yeah.
But all the nonsense that it seemed like everyone else needed from me to show them I could get there.
Yeah.
I could see the unimportance to so much of it. And then also just didn't want to do it because even if it was important, I just didn't feel it. Right.
Yeah.
And that's usually like academic based stuff
Yeah.
or administrative based stuff, because paperwork, I just go insane.
Yeah.
And so find people to do it for you, basically, is the answer to that one.
Right.
You know, but I don't know. I think I got a little off track. Where were we going with that?
I actually don't even know. Kinsey, Cass?
You're talking about the Form 8, right?
Oh, yeah, the Form 8.
Yeah, the Form 8.
So your business
There we
plan
go.
was going well.
Yeah.
So what kind of went from there to?
The business plan was going well.
Yeah.
Things were
thank
starting
you.
to happen kind of in the
Appreciate
world
that.
of snowboarding. Yeah,
Yes.
that's on me. I need to be a better host. Things were going well in snowboarding, and then tell us about the Form 8.
Yeah, so all in snowboarding industry, this was a time that it was ready for change, and the Forum 8 was one of the major components of showing up at the right time. And the way that happened was, at the time, a very dominant pro, Peter Line, was,
Yeah.
and MacDog Productions,
Mm-hmm.
who is the film
Yep.
producers for most of these videos I was talking about, and
Yep.
my favorite one. So these are two kind of iconic people. They start this brand, Forum. And within a year, they build, Pete kind of handpicks these other riders that he thinks will make a good Forum 8. And the reason Forum 8 was a thing to him is because Burton at the time had a board series, and they called it 7. And it wasn't a team, it was just a branch off of the boards, and it was driven by a group of kids that are on the Burton team, all really good snowboarders, so it was nothing against them, but the companies were really they were battling for real market space.
It was like this huge up and coming thing.
It was,
and both recognized it.
And a ton of money being pumped into it and to be made too.
Right.
And so it became like a little cutthroat, and so it was pretty kind of war for a while.
Yeah.
Which was kind of fun, really. I mean, it was a lot going on.
Right.
But
You think of it's interesting you say that, because you think of snowboarding as like this individual sport. Everyone's cool with each other. Like, you're just hanging out, having fun.
right.
But like, it kind of sounds, when you say it's a war, it's like it was a team sport. Like, you were on a team, Burton had a team. It was like there was only going to be, in this setting, like one winner trying to gain that real estate in this up and coming market.
Right.
Like, you guys were battling it out like a team.
So you just framed it up perfectly. So that was, to put the strategy behind it. All right, we're going to form this company.
Right.
How do we do that? And then all the marketing and the creative kind of comes into play. You look at what the industry's doing.
Yeah.
We got the 7 over here. It looks like this. Looks like they're a team. We're in this individual space. You know what? We're just going to form a better team.
Yeah.
Not only that, we're going to have the best snowboarder in the world, hand pick them all. We're going to call it the Forum 8. And the original logo was Public Enemy #1, was the Forum 8 silhouette with the bullseye. So it was a pretty loud bark when Forum was kind of came out in. That would have been year 2 of it in business, but that was like the marketing campaign.
But then it took off.
Yeah, I mean it hit really hard, and so now all eyes are on us, and now the Forum 8 needs to perform because we've gathered it.
Yeah.
Pete and Mike gathered it, MDP, and then we film all season, and in that process we decide to change up the way snowboard videos are made. They were always done independently, MacDog being at the forefront of it.
Yep.
So this really kind of put him in a weird situation because it was kind of challenging his platform a little bit.
He had to adapt.
He did. But he kept the 2 going.
Mm-hmm.
He produced an independent production under MacDog, and then under MacDog he produced the Forum videos. And so what Forum was doing was we were going to have a team video, and we were going to do skits. We were going to have this whole thing be a full production.
Yeah.
And we took that from skateboarding. Skateboarding did team videos. They would do, Powell Peralta would have a team video.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a video mag, or snowboarding was always a collection of different riders
Right.
to showcase different sponsors. That was the way to fund it the easiest, right? So that hit, the Forum 8 hit, kind of, challenging the Burton 7 to some extent. We showed up with an actual team. We actually did a team video.
Yeah.
Everyone did their own section, and it was, I can say it now because it's so far gone, and I can actually look at it
Yeah.
and view it like it's not me, or that I was a part of it truly. And it changed everything
About snowboarding.
It changed the entire landscape. Totally.
If you weren't going to bring it up, I was going to, because like what I know about it is the couple of things that stood out to me as I was reading up on it was you had a boy band fandom.
Yeah.
Like that's how big it was.
Yeah.
I think I read that you signed a baby or something at some point.
Dude.
I want to hear, like, you say it changed the look of snowboarding. Like, go into that. What do you mean? Like, how did you revolutionize the sport, and what was the fan following?
So how it became boy band craze.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
I'm
want
not
to hear.
totally sure, but I think a big ingredient to that was doing this team video, because
Yeah.
it showed everyone collected, and it
Yeah.
showed everyone as a unit. And
It was just completely new, completely different.
completely new and different from snowboarding. Like, we're watching, B grade clips and all these videos because snowboarders can get away with it because their sponsors paid 10 or 15 grand for this person's timeline.
Right.
But if the person doesn't come through with the footage, you can't always just delete it.
Right.
So, because they've paid for that spot. And so that became like, we were like, no, there's no B grade. Like, there's no even A grade. Like, this is A plus.
Yeah.
Nothing goes in this video unless, like, I forget what our saying was, but it was pretty much like everything had to never been done before.
Yeah.
That was our standard. We didn't hit it. We obviously, things had been done before, but the way we did it, the
Right.
way we approached
And
it,
the way you were consistent about it.
yeah. And then we just hit it right. Like, the marketing hit well.
Yeah.
Our product was on point from a style aspect, like quality wise. I can't believe people bought that stuff. It was the worst for a long time. Like,
for
the
that
worst.
time, for that time too, or are you saying that looking back at it?
Yeah, for that time
Wow.
too. It was, it was all kind of bad then at the
But
time.
the content was just king.
The content was king, and it didn't hold anyone back. Like,
Right.
everyone put up. And so that video dropped, and that snowboarding it just blew the roof off. Like,
Yeah.
no one knew what to do. And it was a decade before anything sort of caught up.
What was so I alluded to the baby. You did sign a baby. You didn't deny it, so I'm assuming it was true.
So I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Well, now you got me questioning myself. We might have to go to
It's
an old
one of those
podcast
stories
and look.
you don't remember. You
No,
told it so many times.
I turned down a baby.
Okay, there we go. There you
But I may have signed one time,
Yeah.
and then I turned it down multiple times.
And that baby
after.
grew up to be Shaun White.
And it's still got the
Yeah, he's still
signature
got it
on its
on-
forehead.
yeah.
It's crazy. No, but parents would hand their kid to me on their knees,
crazy.
dude. Like, it was crazy. It felt super awkward.
Yeah.
And Japan was where it was nuts.
Yeah.
Europe was like drugs and scandals.
Yeah.
That was kind of their mode. So they were always trying to, like,
Get you to
push a
party with
girl
them.
on you
Yeah, yeah.
or push some drug on you.
Yeah.
And then in Japan, they were real affectionate. So they would push themselves on you. and the gender didn't matter,
Wow.
whether they had a wife or not, or a kid.
Yeah.
They would offer their wives. It was wild. Dude.
Wild.
I was like, it was crazy.
Did they have a name? Like, I know that the only band I could think of is like Justin Bieber, the Beliebers, right?
The Believers.
These two would probably know. I don't know. Taylor Swift probably has Swifties or something.
I think you actually just nailed that.
Are
I
they
think
Swifties?
They're called Swifties. Yeah.
Wow. No, I knew the Justin Bieber.
Beliebers.
I didn't know that about Swift. I made it up, but obviously
Yeah.
I'm killing it. Did you guys have a name? Was it like the Forum 8 Psychos or something?
No, it's for me. I mean, people would talk crap. They like, we got called out in print for being, gay boys and boy band stuff, like any jokes surrounding that kind of stuff. And
Right.
But dude, it was crazy. Like we would travel, like we wouldn't all travel together because the owner didn't want us all on the same plane if it went
Something
down.
happened,
Yeah, it was like, I mean, they were investing in the money they were spending on us. They didn't want us to die, but they wanted us to.
It's fair.
They wanted us to die snowboarding.
They wanted you to get close to dying.
Yeah.
Did the attention bother you? Because you kind of mentioned going into this, you had this plan and this vision, but you wanted it. I don't remember your exact words. I think you said low key. Like you didn't want the attention or the spotlight. So did any of that bother you?
Yeah. It's. I'd say it's like a work in progress constantly, even to this day. I mean, I can only relate it to the way people describe, like an alcoholic. If they're like, I'm an alcoholic forever, even though I've been sober for 30 years.
Right.
I don't know. That analogy was working better, and then I lost my train of thought.
No, I think maybe if I'm wrong, let me know. But are you saying like once you've done something for as long and as hard as like you have, it's kind of hard to cut that connection, like
For sure.
to separate like you from I'm just a snowboarder
Yeah.
kind of identity?
Yeah. Yeah.
You still have problems with that?
Yeah, I think I take what I have to kind of be in the mix, and then, but finding the lane was hard. Like you're carving it out because it's not like that lane isn't accepted. The one of not accepting the gifts of trouble,
Yeah.
I mean, I think every sport probably has this,
For sure. You kind of had, to me, what it sounds like is, like you're speaking in business terms, right? You're talking about your marketing team and the marketplace and the, I guess essentially audience, right? Which would be your customer.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of had like a crash course in business and building a business as you were like a full-time pro snowboarder. Like you guys were building this from the ground up. You guys were founding something.
Yeah.
What did that then lead to? Like, I know I kind of want to take that and turn it into, how did that help you then build other things and explore other things? I know you've started and been involved in a lot of different things outside of snowboarding, even if it is like related. Like what else did you do? What were these things you got into that all started from that?
I mean, I never, I was so anti-business in my mind.
Yeah.
And so nothing ever connected like that for me. It was never marketing. It was never business or branding. Like I always I was just always like, all right, let's just get people to buy this thing. Or like, let's get people into this. It totally is.
Just like not using all the fancy terms.
Yeah, I just framed it up so that I was insulated from the things that
bugged you about
that bugged me about it, right? But yeah, it's my process. I mean, every single time I enter something, I go back and look at how did this go? What were the things here that I learned? And I can visit so many different experiences, different meetings with a room full of attorneys versus, a meeting with a snowboard brand owner and 12 riders, like talking about the same thing, how different they are and what people are looking at, what they want from it. And so
there's just different languages.
Just totally different languages, and everyone's scope is different too. You
Right.
have, I mean, you literally have all these layers and curtains to business. Like
Yeah.
you have, you know, the athlete sees what the athlete needs to see. PR sees what they need to see.
Right.
And marketing and brand and PR and athlete align on certain things, but that's when everything just hits in the calendar, right? And
Right.
everyone knows that this is the timing for that. And so you learn those things being in whatever industry you're going to be in time. But yeah, I don't know when I really started
Like when it
utilizing
clicked.
that, when it clicked.
Nonetheless,
Again, I think there's that's where the natural component of just sort of, I need fluidity. So business terminology,
yeah.
I guess, and in turn, my actions when I was younger, I didn't do a lot of things that I know I should have now, or maybe wished that I had, because I would like to see the outcome more than anything.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, if I had that opportunity, if I would have done that, I wonder how that would have turned out, whether it was money or whether it was just the experience or losing money, you know. I think I still don't really think of it like that. I'm getting better because I have took a corporate job for 2 years and just to learn the language.
Yeah.
And you know, I have like notebooks of acronyms with the
3-letter
definition,
acronyms.
because just getting thrown into it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, what does all of this mean? I'm just
Right.
nodding my head, and then I'm on Google after, like, what is all this?
Or during. That's
Or
what I did.
during, yeah.
Just during. Just look
See,
at
and
it.
even that was something I was like, oh, if I'm on this meeting, I can actually do this during,
Yeah.
if it's a computer meeting and no one even knows.
Right.
So this is all right. And then you find this like multitask lane.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know how to navigate that kind of space. I was just my own show for so long.
You say you're anti-business, yet you've been super involved with businesses, right? So like you've continued with like being in films and film production, you know, being highly involved, which is a business.
Yeah.
Sponsorships from start to finish, and you also started your own brand and business.
I think business is, I'm not anti-business in concept and
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
definition, right? Like that. I think I'm anti-business in attitude.
Yeah.
I would put it to that more than anything.
I like that.
There's this like, I don't even know that I need to really say it, but you have
sure.
this
Stereotypes and
these
barriers
stereotypes,
of entry.
and they're sadly extremely true and
Yeah.
spot on, and usually not communicated as gnarly as that really is.
Right.
So if anything, they're soft in description, you know, from my experience, and mine's been pretty small, like
Yeah.
in terms of 30-year career where I actually sat in a corporate seat. That was 2 years, and that was
Right.
just to bookend a resume, bookend 30 years and call it legit, really.
Right. But importantly, like that's been a constant theme in these episodes that we're having with these athletes that have played a number of sports, right? Is generally you have the skills that translate to being successful. Like if you learn how to play, whether it's individual or team, you kind of had a hybrid of both. If you're doing it at a high level and you're committing to something, you're all in, you know how to work hard, you know how to work with different types of people. In your case, you had this crash course I mentioned of like business, right? You know how to do a lot of these things. You just kind of need to get this like, it's almost like once you get the language down, like a translator,
Yeah.
or once you get a
Mhm.
converter, right? I think of like the converters. When I go play in Europe, we have to bring like 20 converters for the outlets, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So like once you get the converter, which is the language down, you can apply all these things you have.
Absolutely.
And that's probably why you say, you know, your anti-business attitude, because you've seen there's another way to do it, right?
And
An
do
untraditional
it well.
route,
Yeah.
right? And do it well.
Really well.
That being said,
And
think-
make a lot of money,
and make a lot of money,
which is usually where it goes the other way.
right? That being said, my next question is like, how do young athletes get ahead? How do they get a head start? What did you tell your kids, right? Like, is there a way to pursue like whatever they're into, if it's a sport, right? Because not everyone's into it, but if they're into a sport and they're trying to pursue it, what's your advice to them about like the balance or the other side, or like what's the one thing that they can be doing outside of sports to then learn that language or hit the ground running just a little bit earlier to make that transition maybe easier than yours was or easier than mine will be?
Yeah, there's an easy answer to that. And the easy answer is just pay a little more attention. Don't, like you have the bandwidth, especially like the way the world is nowadays and the way you can get information and learn about things. Like I watch my kids know they're good at like 20 different things.
Yeah.
My lane was like this, and there was no room for anything else because every piece of information that I found out about skateboarding or snowboarding was kind of far in between.
Yeah.
And so you were just holding on to that nugget, and it was like there was no room for
Anything
school
else.
or parents or chores, or it's like, no, dude, like the crumb's almost gone, and I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
And this is literally the only thing that matters to me.
Yeah.
And I don't see that in the kids these days. Even the most passionate ones are like ripping at multiple things. And so their bandwidth.
You think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it can be both.
Yeah.
I think if they understood kind of that, but that's a crazy ask. Like, understand something that I'm explaining to you that you weren't around for or part of. Like, that's always, I don't know. And then that would be the other thing. Like, if you actually listened to adults that share real experience with you,
right,
consider it.
Right.
Like, actually consider it. Don't think you're cooler than that.
They're not just saying it to say it.
Yeah, and if they're saying it nowadays, they're also seeing what these younger people are capable of.
Yeah.
And so they've got to recognize that, whether they can put it to words too. They're just like, oh, these kids, they're actually really capable. So I'm going to throw this warning sign out, because this one thing could actually pull them off of these 6 different lanes that they have so much wrapped up in. And I don't want to see that happen.
Right.
So you just hope they'll listen, and some things they need to change and do themselves, and they'll find a better way. But there are things that if you just avoid, it will go better.
Right.
I mean, there's a few of those out there.
Like?
Paying attention to how you spend $1. I think just that, with no other advice, if you told yourself that every day,
Yeah.
you would save a lot of money.
Yeah. Right. If you're that conscious about it.
If you're that conscious
on a dollar level.
and just, all right, what's this $1 worth? Was the time worth that?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, because that was where I got distracted. I didn't do dumb things with my money. I just didn't do smart things with it.
Right.
And not only not smart, I just didn't even get to the point of what I thought was smart with it.
Right.
I just barely did what, I don't know, I felt like I should do.
Well, I guess maybe that is a perfect segue into what I was trying to ask. Like, what would have been the smart thing? What could have prepared you in that lane? Like, knowing what you know now, if you had a time machine, you obviously crushed it. Like, you did a lot of amazing things.
I'd ask for my parents' help more. I would have asked them. I would ask for their advice more.
Yeah.
Teach me about money.
Right.
Don't just tell me about saving.
Right.
What does that even mean? Like,
Teach you how to put it to work.
Save 10% of the money that you make.
Yeah.
Like, save it where?
Right.
Save it, and like.
And then what?
Yeah. what's 10%?
Yeah.
You know, maybe I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
Like I think there's these things we just kind of tell our kids. Like, I don't know, like my thing right now that I tell my daughter, because I can't give her super good financial advice. I'm not good at it. But I'm trying to learn a few things. And what I tell her, because she made a comment once about credit. And what actually backfired, oh yeah, that's the other thing, is like consider credit.
Right.
Like learn about it.
Yeah.
And
if
then
it's not your
consider
parents, it's a teacher or a coach or like
Totally.
somebody knows.
Learn about it, because
Yeah.
you can be so smart. And I think that would be something sick. I wish I wasn't afraid of that. For me, it was always cash. Pay for my I was so afraid of debt that
Which is okay.
that it is okay. And it served me okay.
Yeah.
It didn't serve me super well from a financial thing, but it served me okay.
It was a start.
Yeah. And I don't know, if I could have gone to my parents more and just been like, yo, Dad,
That's cool.
stuff
to do.
How is it that you can give me $200 a month on,
Right.
and how did you even get this credit card?
Yeah.
It's cool. Like,
Right.
how do I do that?
Be a little bit curious about
and
it.
should I do it? And like, so with my daughter, I'm, when I just challenge her to like, I want to see you get better credit than me. And we don't have a timeline on it,
Right.
but she's motivated.
Right.
She's like going to get better credit than
That's cool.
her dad. And so I'm using myself for her to set this goal, but she can do it. She's
Right.
capable. She's thinking it through, and she's doing the math of her job and the time that she spends and what money she gets from it. And she's paying attention.
Yeah.
And that's, so my advice that I want, she's starting to practice. And right now she'll be smarter than me in 2 seconds.
Right.
So
we went down like a real rabbit hole by my doing. I want to go back because one of my notes is this bio of yours that I never really got.
mhm.
I know you're trying to stay low key and out of the
Oh, yeah.
limelight, but I do need to hear it, right? So you had I want to hear the accolades. Like, don't be shy. This is the brag time for Jeremy Jones, the real Jeremy Jones. Like, tell us about like the highlights and what you were able to accomplish within snowboarding, because like our listeners are going to want to hear that. We talked about the Venture 8 blowing up. What else?
So Forum 8 was my platform and the stage. That was really taught me everything through a fire hose, as they say, right? Like
Yeah.
And we navigated that for about 7 years. It didn't even out, but snowboarding kind of started to come up to it.
Yeah.
So it felt a little more fair, like we are all kind of playing in the same space again.
Yeah.
And then that interview comes out. I move on to Burton through just bad relationships, bad business deals, a lot of napkin deals, this is where I really first felt the effects of not taking the women in Europe and the drugs in Europe and whatever opportunity in Japan, or
Yeah.
it was very little in the U.S. for some reason, in that it was easier to get crazy other places. But that's where deals went down for all the riders. If they
Yeah.
were just out long enough, and
Something would happen.
boss would get sauced up enough that this deal would get done on a napkin.
Crazy.
And it would turn into reality. And I didn't do napkin deals. And I just kind of had enough. So I left to Burton.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say my accolades kind of start. I mean, this was like stardom, and I came through on the video parts, the Forum 8, and I made a name for myself, and so I was there. And so this was a pivot point of now he's done already. Like, as an athlete, I just ran 7 years, so time's up. He's going to Burton. Forum dropped him. This is different narratives that's happening. Right. And then I have my best year. So that's my best season on a Burton snowboard, and it separated me and JP Walker, who is still is a lifelong
Friend of yours,
friend,
yeah.
and we've been side by side this whole time. Very
Yeah.
similar patterns and always backing each other up. But we always were JP and Jeremy. And now we are both off Forum, or I'm off Forum, he's there.
Yeah.
We start to kind of separate and kind of be able to live in our own
Your
space
own.
for a
It
second.
kind of went back like individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really cool for both of us. And in that space, I was getting last parts, and I was getting the things that he kind of always had an up on me when we were in the same team.
Right. Yeah.
And now it's me, and I'm kind of getting that shine over at Burton, and with this industry kind of trying to pull me down in the kind of wake of it
narratives,
all.
yeah.
And so interview happens. I get a lot of traction that year. I have a couple of interviews over the next few years. I mean, I'm on the cover of
Every
snowboard magazine.
That's the
at
one
time.
helpful note that Josh sent me, by the way. But
Yeah,
continue.
and I maybe have the biggest book of consistent video parts every year. I don't know of anyone that has that longevity. I have 27 seasons where I didn't miss a single, actually delivered a video part in a movie project. And so that to me is probably my favorite accolade, and it's not even one.
Right.
It's just a stat that I know.
Like consistency stat. Yeah.
But then I have, writers, what were they? Reader's Choice Awards, little glass trophies, and
SB
those are, we have.
in 2009 or something like that.
Yeah, that was maybe a production award, some soundtrack awards, and then the Nixon Jib Fest is an event that we, again, did kind of the video thing that we did with Forum with events. They were always ran the same way, and we wanted a rail one only. So we did an invite only, and then it was rider judged. So all the riders judged them each other, and that had never happened.
So you knew it was legit.
Yeah, and now there's contest after contest that runs that same program. So that's also like kind of a stat that I like, because we were just doing what we wanted to do, and it conveniently like took hold, and there was patterns and that still are to this day. And so those are where most of like I hold my accolades, like
the influence you had.
The influence, and like the mentorship. Like I see Zach Hale, for instance. He's still snowboarding. He's 12 years. I met him when he was 18. Just came onto the scene and flew into a street trip. 18 years old. His plane caught on fire, and had to land. Take a cab in the middle of Milwaukee in the street.
About being, like, shook up.
Show up, I have a winch set up, and I'm already set up to do my trick. Filmers are already good. I'm just like, hi, Zach, nice to meet you. I need you to get on this winch.
Yeah.
He's never met me before, but he knows my background, so he's kind of starstruck. And then my board breaks. I don't have an extra. Zach, how many boards do you have? And he's in tears almost, because he just came in on a burning airplane.
He thought his life
shows
was over.
up to this thing, and then now I'm taking his boards and pulling his like sponsor stickers off.
Yeah.
So then I break both of his boards too. Jeez. And he's just like, what just happened?
He's
and
like,
then
I hate my hero.
But then like, you like come together after that, and and I just started teaching him and mentoring, and that's an accolade to me. I'm really proud of his career and like what he's learned as an athlete, and from finances too. Like this dude listened. He just paid attention to the mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's also something that I tell people. I'm like, watch people's mistakes, because that's where they usually influence you the most.
Right.
Is when you see someone else's like struggle and pain through it, or your own because of that, right? So you can get a dose of it without the experience sometimes. so he would hear these conversations, and I'd always joke with him, you know, you can be here for 5 or 10 years. It just depends on your investment, whether that was like the way you structure your video parts, the things you chase as a trick, as an athlete, the contracts you kind of agree to or don't agree to.
It's on you.
It's on you. And they matter. Like saying no to a contract can often pay you more later if it's not the right deal. And sometimes you lose out on those as well. So I don't know. Those are kind of the video parts are the best. The trophies, I honestly can't even remember. There's so many like trade show things and video. I was like rider of the year, top 10 rider of the year for 5 seasons, for 5 years. That was pretty sick. I like that. That was Snowboard Mag.
I like that.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Not too
Many people get in the top 10 for multiple years.
Right.
There's now probably 5 or 10 of them that, at least that.
But you were kind of setting the tone.
Yeah,
like,
it was
early
new.
too. You were one of the first, if not the first, to do it.
Yeah, and in our era, you were a little more well-rounded. Like not that you were more well-rounded, but you had to perform more well-rounded. Like it wasn't just
meaning like across events.
Yeah, there wasn't like just a contest genre or a film genre or.
You had to be good at it all.
A influencer genre. You had to just rip. You had to rip at pipe, slope style, rails, jumps, backcountry. Like you had to be good at all of it.
Yeah.
And so winning it, like getting in the top 10 in that era is really cool because it involves all of those things.
Yeah.
And so that, again, that's just a stat that I'm pretty stoked on. And then
that's cool.
Yeah, I think my reputation is solid. I'm happy about that. That's probably my favorite stat is that snowboarding still will come back to me. They want me around. They want me in the space, and I both appreciate that and consider it, to an extent, a job done well enough because I don't force myself back in. I usually want to be asked. So.
Right. One kind of final question before we go into what I call the rapid fire, where I'll just ask you a bunch of quick questions to finish off. I want to know at what point, if any, starting from when it clicked, you had that business plan to now, you were a pro for 25 years, more.
Yeah, 25 years.
There are ups and downs, just like any sport, just like any job.
Sure.
Was there a moment where you were like, I can't do this. This is too much?
Absolutely.
Talk about one of them. Like, what's the one that comes to mind?
What comes to mind the most is probably the year 2006 till 2009.
So 3 years.
Yeah. It was just 3 seasons of it was the worst. I was just not interested in snowboarding.
Huh.
I didn't want to be around the culture. I didn't want to do my job.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't want to snowboard on any day that I wasn't
didn't have to.
Specifically getting paid to snowboard. Not even like, all right, we're filming today. All right, I'll show up.
Right.
Are we going to go drill this or that? Nope. Because I still get paid.
Right.
I just need to get this clip. And those years were hard because I could do it. I think that's why it ran so long, is I could actually go get a clip without drilling the move.
Right. But how? Like, what's the mental state you have to get to on those days?
I think I just came there. Like, I learned how to kind of rep in my mind better.
Yeah.
And be more successful. I also learned to scale to the paycheck.
Yeah.
And so this is where maybe why it all kind of felt so shitty in those years is because I was scaling to the pay grade.
It was a job now.
It was a job. And I wouldn't do my dopest stuff
Right.
just because I'm like, I literally only need one frame.
Yeah.
I always land. Like, I don't like to use a shot if I didn't land it.
Right.
And so even scaling that, it'd just be like, all right, I'll do this because I know the style will look good. Shoot it from here. We'll do this. It'll be done.
And then we're done. So when
I hated that.
When did that change in 2006? What happened? Like, what got you out of that funk?
Up 2008 more. Is that right? What did I say? 06 to 9, something like that.
No, it was 2003 to 2006, right?
6 to 9.
Oh, my bad.
8, 9.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask that question again.
Okay.
So, what happened in 2009 that clicked for you? Like, what got you out of that funk?
Yeah, I don't know. Can't even put it to a thing. I think I just drill my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I sit there and just ask, in the dark and on the garage floor and in pain, if that's a thing. Like, kind of just take advantage of vulnerability when I have it.
Yeah.
And just be real. Just be like, why am I here?
And
What,
then learn.
like, am I trying to, can I do this just for the check? Because it's
Right.
easy.
Yeah.
Like, it's easier, and I don't really have to snowboard. I get to spend more time with my family,
Right.
and I have more days now at home. But it doesn't feel cool.
Yeah.
That remains. You just sort of pick things apart, and then your perspective just kind of changes. And I love riding handrails on a snowboard. I love the sound. I love the friction when it's connected right. I love flexing the board around the metal. And I love the way the board flexes under my foot when I try to get it to leave the ground. And I started to realize that I love the feeling of snowboarding.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even really tell you why at a big, like, overarching 30,000 foot view, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Like, yeah, it was fun, but that's kind of all it feels like until I really break it down, and I'm like, oh, that was sick, when I can feel like that where I came off of my edge,
Right.
and that was like
Even the tiniest
proper.
details. Yeah.
And that was the sweet spot. And how do I hit that now every time?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love the engineering component of, and maybe the business stuff worked that same way, as like, I kind of reverse engineer a lot of everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, again, that kind of ties to the experience. Like, once I jump in, then I'm like, okay, back out, and then I know the landscape.
Right.
So, man, I don't know. Those were dark years. They were dark.
Yeah.
Getting paid good. Probably some of my better salaried years.
Yeah.
But it was,
It was a grind.
yeah, there's a lot of drama there.
I was
and
actually
just-
surprised you said there was like a 3-year. I mean, that's a long time to be living,
It was long. I
feeling that.
didn't think it would end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's where I truly learned about depression and discovered, what anxiety actually felt like. And that was then where I really put my finger on it and was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what that is.
Right.
We're in it. We're in it.
So was it just being able to take a step back and like reassess potentially on a daily or maybe even more often like basis and going, do I want to do this? Like, is that what
Yeah.
enabled you to keep going?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you were conscious about, like, you recognized it,
Yeah, I
and so you
paid
could deal with
attention
it.
to it. Yeah, there's not many things that I move about. Like, even my habits are pretty thoughtful.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of intent in my habits.
Yeah.
And so like my habits don't even always have to be on a schedule. Like, I'm not this.
Yeah.
It's not like it's less of a routine. It's more of like,
As long as they get done.
yeah, I'm very intentional.
Yeah.
I try to be. And there's usually a lot of passion behind my intent.
Right.
And that can be perceived all over the place.
I did lie. I'm going to ask you one more question.
I could sit here all day. I'm
Yeah, this is
comfortable.
great. You're killing it, by the way. I have to ask about, you sent me this, Josh sent me this. I obviously found this doing my research. You were in a pretty gnarly avalanche.
Mm.
Do you hear me using all the lingo now?
Yeah,
Gnarly?
you got it. See?
I might have used that before, though.
You're
I'm not
picking
going
up.
to sit here and act like,
That one came out smooth.
yeah, it was smooth.
Sounded like you use it a lot.
You know, gnarly avalanche in 2017.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought for sure that was going to be like the low moment where you're like, I can't do this anymore. Because I know it's tough.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had kind of clicked in, and those were some of the weirdest but funnest times on my snowboard, was kind of leading up to that avalanche. And sponsors had kind of gone away. I was really having to assess like what snowboarding was going to look like.
Yeah.
And we had started this little brand, Destroyer, and it was a pad company. And we were pretty bootstrapped, so we utilize our network as you do, and we wanted to tell them thank you for the efforts that they had done. And so we collected, I think it was between the brand now, like 6 or 7 people, so there was
Yeah.
a total of 10 of us, and we just wanted to tell them thanks and take them on a catboarding operation, go powder boarding, just no
Just take 'em
photos.
out for a good time,
Yeah,
yeah.
just take them for a good time. And
Like a company retreat.
yeah, company retreat vibe, and tell them thanks. And so that's where the avalanche kind of set its stage. And it was just a crazy day. Lots of snow, it was 17 was starting off a lot like this past season
Yeah.
was here in Utah. And so lots of heavy snowfall. Our snowpack was actually really good though, up until literally this night.
Yeah.
The morning hours, a lot of moisture fell into the snowpack, and it changed some things and created some really low, like button triggers. They call them dragons in the snow. It's not even like a bad layer. Like we were digging pits through 7-8 feet of snow, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the readings were kind of funky.
Yeah.
But we still took our precautions because we knew how deep the snow was. It took us half the day to get to the top in
Yeah.
the snow cat, which normally it would be like a 45-minute cat ride.
Right.
So we're up there at like 1, starting at 7 in the parking lot. We take 2 laps. In those laps, one was lower elevation, lower pitch. The other one was right to kind of avalanche pitch, which is like 30 degrees.
You're talking angle.
Angle.
Yeah.
Yep. So the second run is a little more sus just because of the angle.
Mhm.
And then, so we ride the shoulder, which is right next to the trees, going down this kind of path where there was a bit of a clearing, but we stayed tight to the trees because the trees anchor the snow.
Yeah.
So hug in there, it stays safer, and then you get a better read of the run.
Mm-hmm.
Can feel it under you. So we liked it. It was the deepest thing ever, and the best snow to this date that I've ever
Jeez.
been in.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, like what? you were
Even
thinking,
in
what,
Utah.
what could have gone wrong? Yeah, like
Yeah,
was a
it
perfect
was-
day.
I tell this jet ski story, but not everyone gets it. But have you seen those OG jet skis, like with
Yeah.
the handle that
Yeah,
goes
that
up
you
and
can
down?
stand. Yeah, you're standing.
Have you ever seen them, and they're good at it now? Pop there, and they'll like fully duck dive,
Yeah.
go all the way underwater, and then they
Just
come
pop back,
launching
yeah.
out. This snow was like giving me that feeling.
Wow.
And the run of the avalanche, that was the run. I was like, I'm going to try one of these jet ski moves because the snow's like packing out under you. I think I can fully disappear,
You could swan
just
dive.
like nosing in and
Yeah.
then peel it back and just come
Wild.
shooting out.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get an opportunity to try it, but it was
Yeah,
it was
that-
just snow I hadn't felt in all the years, even
Yeah.
traveling. So it was as good as it gets. And then third run, late in the day, it's 4:00, and we drop into this run and it breaks on me. So
Yeah.
one person had gone in front of me. I took nearly the same line exactly, but as I was cutting across the bowl, which was part of my escape and if nothing goes wrong plan, they were kind of similar lines.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to do too much like tweaking once
Yeah.
it hit, but man, that thing popped, and yeah, that
That had to be a scary moment.
it was. I'd been in avalanches before. I've heard pops, I've felt pops underneath me, and I've had some experience close to them and heard it too.
Right.
But this one, like, it was so much bigger
Yeah.
just in the sound alone. And that snow, you can imagine how beautiful that was in all that glory I was just describing,
Right.
of its quality and the crystals on the top and that pop and then that like beauty and how violent it got,
Yeah.
like immediately, was an undescribable like fear.
Yeah.
And I don't normally feel that. Like I was like, what just happened? And I
Yeah.
knew exactly what happened, right? So I'm already, and this goes through my head and I'm already like in get out mode. So I held my line trying to get over to this tree because I could actually see where it broke at
Yeah.
from the tree. So I was like, oh, I'm almost there. I can hop over the back of this slide and it's going to pass me because I was right at the top of it. We called it an ollie. I tried to, like, at that point, generate as much speed cutting across that rubble that was forming as I could and stay on my feet. And then we call it an ollie where you
Pop
flex
up.
the tail and
Yeah.
pop up, bunny hop or whatever. So I go to load that, and just as I kind of load it lightly, because you recognize that you're on something soft, a little like wave clips my heel and it just puts me into it. So I'm
Jeez.
just sitting in it and like hot tub position, hot tub chair. And now I'm like going right under the tree that I was just aiming for, which is a big evergreen and has these, 10 or 15 foot long umbrella branches at its lowest angle.
Yeah.
And I'm like getting taken under those. And I remember, I don't know what actually happened, but in my head, I was laughing because I'm like, got this. Because now I had like, I'm getting out of quicksand opportunity. I grabbed this branch
Yeah.
and I still have like 12 feet to skin this thing. And I'm like, got this. And again, just one of those moments that happens so fast, but I'm like, I don't know, 1,200 frames a second on this thing. And I'm feeling every like needle as it goes through my leather mittens, like skinning that branch. And it's just like,
You just keep going.
and it just keeps speeding up. And then like pop off of the end of that branch. And then I'm just like, oh, dude. And that's where I was like defeated. And I was like, all right,
It's over.
it's over. So I just start swimming. I'm still sitting and I just move what I can. And then within a second of coming off that branch, I go over a cliff that's in the middle of the run that's like maybe 20, 25 foot drop. Jeez. And then that's where things go dark because I can't see.
Oh, yeah, then you're covered.
Slide's coming over me. The slide and me hit the landing of that, and we set off a secondary fracture that's like 6 feet deep. So now this thing just like stacked double in height and is just got exponentially faster, even at its lower angle. And right then, though, I hit a tree right between my legs, still strapped in, facing down the hill, my feet first. And then the avalanche packed in around me. And as it did that, it like slapped me up against the tree, but pinning my broken board and legs around the tree. So it stands me up. I hit my face on the tree, and then at that point I kind of blacked out, and I woke up like falling to the snow, like falling away from the tree, and then just sat down, and I was buried pretty much from my waist down.
Jeez.
And couldn't really feel what was going on. I was just like, a 10-inch aspen was at my crotch, and I couldn't understand because my
How or
feet,
why, yeah.
were
Your
out
board
there,
had snapped.
and they didn't feel too crazy. Like there was so much.
I mean, the adrenaline rush
Right.
was probably...
So then my buddy Brock, he pulls up right next to me, and he's gone through most of those 25 years with me to an extent. He wasn't a pro snowboarder, but he started out trying to be, so he knew the landscape. We were always with each other in our, training facility, we'd call it, preseason up at Guardsman or Brighton, where we would practice being in the winter all day long and practice how to deal with these situations. And we prided ourselves on it. We did it every year, multiple times. We'd study up on just how to get out when everything hits the fan and how you do that. And this was kind of that moment. It happened. And he was the first face I saw. And that was where all my defeat went away. And I was like, oh, nice. We done. We're out of here.
Yeah.
No problem. And it wasn't easy. Like I had 2 broken legs, tib fib, just exploded my right one. He had to back me out on a POW surfer. No bindings. It's basically like a surfboard, but you ride those bindingless, and that was easier for me to sit on.
Like a sled.
And then he would just guide the nose. So he's backing me down this rubble, and this rubble's like concrete. As soon as that slide stops, that snow has so much friction and heat in it. It's like ice cubes.
Yeah.
I mean, it bonds up so fast, and that's what he's like backing me down. And I'm just like bumping around with two broken legs, and I can see the pain in him, he's an office dude now for the past decade.
Yeah.
And now he's asked to back me out of a 30-degree rubble pit. I'm 200 pounds with gear.
Yeah.
And 2 broken legs, and he's got to walk me out backwards and control my speed and bumps and hunched over, and so his pain was evident, but there was nothing stopping him. He was getting me out. And we get to the cat, start the cat trip back. The cat starter gears go out about 2 miles from the parking. That's not going to get started. I'm starting to show signs of hypothermia. So this is where the crew started to get kind of concerned, because we're about, like I said, 2 miles from the car.
Yeah.
We didn't have a sat phone. We needed to get to the cell service. That's what we were trying to do. So a couple of them sprinted through now fresh snow. It never stopped snowing all day. 2 feet of powder to the car. If you've ever sprinted in powder, it's not rad. Your lungs are bleeding in seconds, and they don't stop. And if you have 2 miles to go and you're post-holing, and there's some stories there that I found out later that made it super terrifying for that group. And so everyone's effort was so huge, but
strangely enough, you might have been the most relaxed with 2 broken legs.
Yeah.
Having just
for sure.
An avalanche.
And honestly, watching this, this is the coolest thing is 2 of my friends, Brock being one, Seth, who was leading that sprint operation to get these calls off. He went against me because I was like, he's another one like Brock. He's been there. Same thing. Trust him for everything. Those 2 dudes were there. I was like, this is done. It's a done deal. We're out.
Yeah.
He, instead of just calling search and rescue, decided to call Lifelight because he didn't like my state.
Yeah.
And when he left. So Lifelight was able to, they were just flying out of the U. They were able to put down really the only place you could in that zone. And at the time, because of the weather, was coming in, and also it was only clearing, where the cat broke down. So within 18 minutes, that call and the bird had landed. So, and then another delay trying to get to the hospital. Storm came in. The heli had to fly around Oakley for a while and then end up piggybacking a car down Provo Canyon, taking me to Provo, which they didn't get to the surgery for over 24 hours.
Jeez.
So I like had to break out of the Provo hospital, which was wild. Like, had to actually have a social worker interview for them to release me. It was really wild. Like, cause they just thought I was crazy.
Right,
And I'm like,
yeah.
no, dude, what I need is surgery.
Right.
And like,
Now.
homie keeps pushing it back.
Right.
So I got a surgeon up north that is ready to do this at 5. So
Yeah.
get me there. And that was entirely orchestrated by my wife. I have to give her that credit because she had to muscle that. She
Yeah.
had to muscle the social worker, had to
Crazy.
muscle the surgeon and like the directors of the hospital. She's just like, this isn't prison. Like,
Yeah.
if he's nearly dead, you have to let him go. So
Right.
let's get him out of here.
Right.
I want to get these fixed. And so it was just this like, just kept going,
Yeah.
you know? And I think in this process, I learned, you know, the days were dark, but not because I didn't love snowboarding. The days were dark because I wanted to get back to it. And I
Yeah.
really just started to love it again,
Yeah.
truly. And now I can, you know, but I can't. I have 2 broken legs. One of them didn't work until literally now, 6.5 years later.
Yeah.
And 5 surgeries later and a reconstructive one just January. And now I'm finally like straight leg and way less pain and looking to snowboard this year the way that I have been hoping to get to,
Yeah.
you know? And so I've been disconnected from it, even though I've been involved and try to stay in tune with it all just because I love it. Like it's sick. It's a sick culture. I think with some guidance, what you can learn and where you can jump from is just phenomenal. Like you don't get exposed to the kind of stuff you get exposed to
Yeah.
when you're an athlete or traveling or on some sort of tour schedule where you're a performer.
It's just
essentially
life is amplified.
life is amplified, and there's so much to learn there and experience, good and bad, that if you just open your eyes a little bit, it's intense for sure, and maybe a bit scary for sure, but man, it'll teach you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
You'll find it.
It's awesome. That story just blew me away, man. That is nuts.
It was nuts. It was nuts, but I've landed on this, and those 2 people particularly, Brock and Seth, that I was speaking about, and the others there was a lot of support happening on all angles, but those 2 and the past that I have with them, and I mean this when I say it, I have to reevaluate 6.5 years of rehab, truly, to have this be 100%, but 95%, I would go through that event any day of the week to watch. Just to watch those dudes, like, because it was everything we like hoped would never happen.
Yeah.
And it was everything that we hope we would respond.
Yeah.
Like
You saw them spring to
I
action.
want to do it this way.
Yeah.
I'm going to drill this because when my friend needs me, I want to. And
Very
that
cool.
like, that's heavy. That's like, but like I said, the rehab, it's been longer than expected. And so I would like,
95.
like I said, the event all day long. The rehab, we're gonna talk that one
Yeah.
through a little more
Wow.
detail. But
It's amazing.
yeah, that was really cool, and I love replaying it in my head for that reason, because I'm very proud, and yeah, I mean even better even better than what they were capable of, what I saw and what I thought they were good
Yeah.
at. They were just better than that. And I think there's nothing better than seeing your homies and the people you love, your family or whatever.
Fight for you.
Yeah, fight for you and like perform
Yeah, get it done.
whenever they have that opportunity. And it's like, because that's a mad half minute. That's instinctual stuff. And that's like, that's the real shit. Like if you don't break down there, you just proved it.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't buckle. I think that just deserves crazy respect.
Awesome. We're going to go into rapid fire.
Okay.
What's the most fun movie you've been a part of?
For Right or Wrong, Burton film. Mandalay Films maybe produced it. That was
Why is
fun.
Why is that so fun? Why does that stand out?
I got to do it my design.
Yeah.
It was really my story. It was something I really got to drive from the jump, and it was a Hollywood production that came into our space, and that was fun to kind of like,
You got to go big with it.
yeah, kind of had to go big.
It was a long way from Forum 8. You said you had.
It was a long way, yeah. And I was in those hard years. That was like the second year of where things
Yeah.
were really tough. But I did. I went, bigger than I had gone, bigger than anyone else had gone on
Yeah.
an ender feature for that film. And that was fun. That was a lot of drama, but fun.
What was the most fun thing you did while on the road? Was there like a consistent thing that you did? You talked about habits. Did you have road habits that were?
No, one of the funnest things I did on the road wasn't consistent. It was a one-time thing, but me and JP, this just because it was kind of baller, and this is where baller.
If
like,
you think it's baller, I can't wait to hear it.
this is where it's baller for me. It's probably way different than anyone else. But we
Yeah.
rolled into Mount Hood. We'd always get called, "Hey, come in and shoot. We got a jump built. Weather looks good." So you'd fly to Portland. We had it down,
Yeah.
We were at Mammoth, I think. So we flew to Portland because we got this call, me and JP. And we at this point were over these calls. We didn't want to go ride the Ross jumps at Mount Hood Meadows. Like, they weren't our style. But we were being forced to go do it.
You were pros.
So we showed up to PDX, and we walk out down to baggage claim, and I look at the weather, and I'm like, it's raining, dude. It's going to be raining the next 2 days. And JP looks at me, and he's like, what are we doing? And I'm like, we're going to go upstairs and book a ticket and go home. We grabbed our bags, went upstairs and booked the ticket, and just flew back home.
That's awesome.
And that, to me, was pretty baller because
Yeah.
we're just like, they're like, where are you? And we're just like, we pieced out. It wasn't good enough.
That's great.
And that
I
was,
thought you were going to go to Hawaii, but
No,
you didn't
like-
even do that. You just went home.
I mean, it's not even that heavy of a flex, but it felt like we flexed pretty hard.
Yeah.
And I still love that one just
That's
because
awesome.
it shook people. They were just like, wait, what? How? They just left?
Yeah.
But we were at that phase. Like, you couldn't always control our choices because we were at that level, and we rarely utilized it, but that was one of them.
Last one. Do you have a playlist? Do you listen to music when you snowboard?
I don't.
You got to stay focused.
Yeah, I listen
gotta
to
be
it pre and
kinda like
after.
aware.
Yeah.
You have a playlist. You have a pre and after playlist?
No, it's fluid. It's mood based. But yeah, a lot of like early 90s hip hop is a go-to for general stoke.
So let me ask you this. If you had a baseball walkout song,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be? That's the question.
Oh man, it would probably be it'd be a Biggie something. It'd have to be Biggie something.
Solid.
I'll go with any Biggie.
Anything big.
Just to show the respect and like, any Biggie I'm cool with.
Love that. All right. 3 little like follow-up questions, then we'll do an outro. Who are 3 people that need to be on this show that like have this introspection, the same kind of wavelength as you, like to be a complete human and also find interests to leverage your position. You know, you talked about the things you're teaching your daughter. Like, who are people that think like that are in sports, in or out of snowboarding, in or out of Utah? Like, just whoever comes to mind.
Oh, geez. I mean, this one isn't one person, but it's a one person. If you have like a good connection with your partner, your husband or your wife, I think that this person is crucial. They should be on your show, whoever that is. Who next guest that you have, you should ask for their partner to be on instead.
I like that, yeah. We have thought about doing like a couple, like both at the same time. I hadn't considered just asking the spouse or the partner to come.
Almost like a prequel.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then, man, the other one's dead, so that'll be hard to get on here.
That would be impossible.
But that's Noah Slaznik. He was just my inspiration snowboarding. Yeah. That was the hook. Style, attitude. People like that. You don't need any snowboarders really yet. Who are the business people you need? I don't want to send any of my attorneys your way. I'm not happy with them all right now.
You can slow roast this answer if you want to text me.
Yeah, let's
No, seriously, if you're in a brand meeting and with somebody like and you know they're an athlete and then now they're in business or whatever, like athlete to whatever level, just text me.
Yeah.
We'll just do that.
I'll think that through. I mean, Zach would be one. Like I mentioned him earlier. Like,
yeah, I meant to write him down.
Because
Zach Hale, right?
Yeah, and he plays with the stock market and has success with it. He's conservative. He's not a baller in terms of what he spends his money on.
He's not trying to flash.
Yeah, he's not flash.
That's
but
awesome.
He knows his position and does some real estate stuff. He knows he's trying to he's doing exactly what you described earlier, where he's setting it up so that when those paychecks shut off, he's in the same position.
Yeah.
Like the paycheck just rolls over.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Last one is, can we use your socials? Do you give us permission to pull videos and pictures from your
whatever
social
you want.
media?
Yep.
All right. And then I think these two would agree. I would love, if you don't mind, they'll probably just sew this in somewhere. Can you just rattle off the sponsorships you've had?
All of them. All of them.
Say all the sponsorships and then say the brands that you've built yourself. And differentiate. So for the purpose of making videos and reels, which we have to do, say the sponsorships are, and then just name as many as you can, and then say, and the companies that I built or the brands, however you want to phrase it, are. So
okay.
a 2-segment thing, and then you're off the hook.
Okay. Sponsor list from the jump, the best that I can remember would be Yama Snowboards, Milo Sport Snowboard Shop, Limited Snowboards, Joyride Snowboards, kind of flow, Revelation Snowboards, that's where payment started to happen, Planet X Outerwear, Anon Goggles, Iris Goggles, Smith Goggles, Dragon Goggles, Black's Boots, DC Boots, Forum, and then Burton. Burton became more all-inclusive, so that now that sponsors really started to trim
the boots
up.
And the goggles disappeared.
Yeah. Some skateboard companies in there, Zoo York. What else? Zero. Shoe companies, Circa, Action, Gravis. Current sponsors are Forum Snowboards, which will jump to the other list as one that we've relaunched.
Reincarnated.
So that was dead for a decade. So that's a new brand starting. Also, current sponsor, I would say. Nitro was an old one. That's where I came from. I'm pretty lean on sponsors these days. Liquid Death, Bubs Naturals, kind of supplement brands now. We just go for the stuff.
We're
to keep
benefiting
us-
from the Liquid Death right now as we speak.
And then the Sect is the gym that I run my office out of, and I do the content there. So we're turning that online, and that will that's one of my new business ventures. So
now business
I
ventures.
think now business things I've started. So I mean, everything seems like it's a brand. So I got to kind of put some parameters around this, because I've started so many like brands because I just love that process of going through it. So brands I've started, what doesn't kill you is probably my favorite brand, most successful one. And merch I just play with.
I'm going to get one of those shirts the second we're done with this.
Yeah. And then, but it's my speaking gig. So I took the avalanche story, took a lot of some of this life story that we talked about previously, the letter from my dad. And so I have this whole, and how I created this was on the floor of the garage, just in those dark days. And I needed a rehab avenue.
Yeah.
And so I started telling my story in my head and my life story and how can this be? And someone said, do you want to start speaking?
Right.
I said, no, seems crazy. But I talked myself into it with his support, created this presentation, and it was fun. Like, it's fun. And so I sell that to corporate companies. I really try to do it in elementary schools and high schools.
Very cool.
Right before COVID, I was doing that at assemblies, and that was the sickest. It was like a 20-minute version keynote, and it wasn't the money maker, but man, that was the experience.
You get the best reactions. Yeah, I've done that.
Insane, like stuff I won't say because it's so personal and it's not mine to tell. But I mean, in 2 months, like I saw in front of me, like people decide to change their life more than I've ever experienced. And
cool.
That's just, they're so young too.
Right. Impressionable.
Yeah.
Good work, Kinsey.
Going long. So, business, and then, yeah, I mean, that's kind of it, really. There's, like I said, there's so many little, like, offshoots of things that we've started, and you know, the Spot was our training facility. Not all of our businesses aren't actually like what's paying us.
Yeah,
generally they're usually an outlet.
Yeah,
passion.
Like you were using them in that moment to help build what you were doing. And then
it's
it
like
turned
a
out
marketing
to be,
component a lot of times,
and then it turned out to be useful to other people.
Yep.
You were solving your own problems, which therefore solved other people's.
And sometimes you need the space to test things too. And so you just create I create a brand just because it's all I really know how to do. It's like, all right, if I just create this brand around this idea, I'll be able to look at it honestly and see, like, I mean, that sort of like level sets everything.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Jeremy, that's all I have from our side. I think what an incredible story, incredible stories that you have, you know, such a unique path. Incredible and unique perspective that you bring. You know, I think about like kids that are listening to this, like they're gonna learn something, right? Like,
hope so.
You had a crash course in life, in business, in sport. Some really, really cool stories that like have inspired, you know, me just sitting here and listening. Like, if anything, this is gonna help me, you know, be a better person, be a better athlete.
Sick.
I think it was
Thank you.
very, very cool. So can't thank you enough. We really appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the time. Thanks for letting me chat. It feels pretty therapeutic.
Yeah.
I don't mind sitting with these headphones on and kind of work out my own stuff
Well,
sometimes.
like something about like hearing your own voice
Yeah.
too. I literally just said this with Kaz, who was taking me through a couple questions. Like hearing yourself kind of say it in real time, like it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's easier to correct. It's
Yeah.
easier to like apply your improvements to.
And think one step
Yeah.
at a time, and yeah, it's awesome. So
Good
thank you.
perspective. Yeah. You're going to get good at it, better. I should say you're only going to get better
Yeah,
at this than
exactly.
with that perspective. So
Thanks,
it's awesome.
Jeremy.
Thank you.